Baker Mayfield led the Bucs to a playoff win over the Eagles just last season, earned him a new $100 million contract this offseason. Now, Mayfield is on his fourth NFL team over the last 4 years, and his journey from the Browns all the way to the Bucs wasn't an easy one. Baker described the process saying, quote, "You're having a lot more fun when you're not getting shipped to different places like a piece of a laundry." Now, I found that analogy fascinating because laundry doesn't necessarily get shipped to different places.
I mean, depends. Like laundry companies, if you're doing.
Where are you shipping it to?
Where are you shipping it to? It does it in-house.
To the cleaner.
No, it does it in, like if you take your laundry
you take
to
it to
a
the
place,
dry
they
cleaners
keep
and you
it
come
at the
back
dry
and pick
cleaners.
it up from the dry cleaners.
The guy felt disrespected. Why are you picking this? Why are you picking it?
That's it. I got to come up with something else, Baker.
Let me start with you, JJ. Does Baker deserve more respect in your mind?
No. No, I mean, Baker Mayfield was a Pro Bowl quarterback last year.
Sure.
He got rewarded $100 million, and his team was 9-8, barely made the playoffs. I think Baker gets the right respect. You talk to certain players around the league, they put a lot of respect on Baker Mayfield's name, the way he plays the quarterback spot. So for me, you just got rewarded for the way you play, and your team barely made the playoffs. You got rewarded to a Pro Bowl. What else do you need? You need the people to put you in the top 5 in the NFC and all that? No, I think Baker Mayfield is getting the exact respect that he deserves and that he has earned.
That's fair. I disagree. I think Baker deserves more respect, not from the team, not from you, not from me, maybe not from Dave, but at least from fans around the league. Like, some people would try to suggest that Baker Mayfield is a bust because of how many teams he's been on. And there's a lot of nuance, like Doug Peterson being fired for the Philadelphia Eagles, that goes into certain situations. Wherever Baker leaves, usually the organization is not better off because he's left, which is a fascinating theory. When Baker left the Browns aren't better off because Baker's gone. When Baker left the Carolina Panthers, I suggest, haven't proven to be better off. Obviously, the other team was the Rams, and the Rams have Matthew Stafford. He just had to start there because Stafford had an injury. So Baker usually makes the organizations that he's in, I don't even know that he makes them better. I won't say he makes them better. But people don't watch Baker leave and be like, yes, he's gone.
Right. Baker Mayfield was terrible at Carolina, right?
Yeah, he's bad. Very bad.
Right?
Yeah, that was Bryce Young.
And he had one good game in L.A. because he played a bunch of games.
Yeah, about 3.
So he was bad in L.A. too. So that's why you keep getting shipped off because you were bad at those two places.
I want to push back on that,
maybe we can argue that Cleveland moved off of him too fast, give him a little bit more chance.
I agree with that.
But those two teams, he wasn't playing good football.
We know L.A. wasn't a real home for him, right? L.A. just
but I'm
needed
just saying
a guy.
the way he played, too, though, when he got out there. He had one good game, and that was against the Raiders.
He showed up a day before.
Literally, like 24 hours before. One of the craziest things I can ever remember. The game, I think they beat the Raiders.
Yeah, they did.
Like
I know. That's why I just said
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Drove him like 90 yards. It was great. I'm sorry, James. I think Baker is at the right level of respect now, because he's got the bank statement to prove it. Yeah. He's also got the backing of the Bucs organization. I mean, they made him a priority last offseason. You say what you will about how small his contract was, but they signed him. I mean, apparently nobody else would do better. And then they immediately rewarded him without a whole lot of fuss after he succeeded last season. So I think he's fine right now, but I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I don't think he was getting enough before. I respectfully, and I trust your experience and your football IQ so much, but I felt like Baker Mayfield was in hopeless situations in Carolina and even in L.A. Because remember, that was not the L.A. Rams that won a Super Bowl and have been playoff teams. That was the L.A. Rams with their whole offensive line hurt. Obviously, Kupp was out. Matthew Stafford obviously was out because everybody was out. As soon as Stafford went down that year, they were like, let's call it a year, guys. Like, we're not going to hurt Aaron Donald playing this meaningless football. Obviously, we know the Panthers have been hopeless for a couple years at this point. And going all the way back to Cleveland, Baker played that final season in Cleveland with a shoulder injury.
Falling off.
He gutted through that thing and looked bad as a result. And the whole football world was just like, yep, this guy sucks now. But I remember, not to cut you off, I remember doing this show. I'm getting old because I can remember a show we did 2 years ago where we were like, is Baker going to rediscover his mojo after leaving Cleveland? And people laughed about it. Yeah. Like, that's how he was viewed. So, yes, I think he's where he needs to be now. It seems like people respect him. I don't think it ever needed to drop as far off as it did.
But it's one thing I do know about the National Football League. They don't care what you got going on. True. You step in between these lines, play the game.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield went to the Carolina Panthers after Cleveland, correct? Won the starting job. Walked out there as the starter week 1. Got benched. So what I'm saying is the way you were playing the game got you benched. I don't care who you got around you. They don't care. They don't care nothing about that. Then you get shipped to the Rams and you have one good game. So all I'm saying is the way you play last year with your team barely making it in, being 9-8, you getting the respect that you should be getting.
I think that's a really good point. And remember, we did a whole segment 20 minutes ago about the top 5 NFC quarterbacks. Didn't mention Baker once.
Yeah.
No.
And I think Baker's the perfect example, in my opinion, of a quarterback who can win you a lot of games with a good supporting cast.
Sure.
He's not dragging a bad team to relevance. I think Jared Goff is the same way.
Thing. That's
I think
what I
they're
was going
very
to say.
similar.
I don't think there's
Baker's
a
more
sizable
athletic than
gap
Goff, but-
between Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. I don't think that gap is that sizable. Baker had 4,000 last year, passing 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, had a good season with the team that, to me, is not all that impressive offensively. I don't think they're that impressive. Give Baker a good team like he had in Cleveland. They won 11 games, went to the playoffs. Bucks, they won 9 games, went to the playoffs. I don't know.
But we ain't never seen Goff look like he looked, though.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
But Goff's always had
I'm not
McVay.
saying you got to win and drag these teams, but you should look like
You know who the gold standard of coaching is? It's Andy Reid, and Sean McVay's recently won a Super Bowl. Shanahan, he's a beast too. But the list came out. Somebody aggregated a list of the top coaches in the NFL. I'm going to show y'all the top 20. Let y'all soak some of this in real quick. Andy Reid, you see one. McVay, Shanahan, Harbaugh, LaFleur, Tomlin, the other Harbaugh, hadn't been in the NFL in 10 years. And then just kind of take in some of this list. Dan Quinn's at 20. Eagles, Nick Sirianni in the third row there, in the third column at 15. Kevin Stefanski with the Browns at 10. So y'all eyeball this list at home and just kind of soak some of it up real quick. Okay, great. Now bring us over on Cam Pritch because now we got to talk. My biggest issue with the list, Doug Peterson. Entirely too low. When you talk about best coaches currently in the National Football League, if I see Doug Peterson at 16, I'm thinking that's asinine. I, in all honesty and authenticity, would put Doug Peterson at 4. I would put Andy Reid. I would put Sean McVay. I would put Kyle Shanahan. I would put Doug Peterson. I would suggest to you that what Doug Peterson has done in his coaching tenure since 2016 is just as impressive as any coach not named Andy Reid. Again, when you think about, well, Acho, what about Mike Tomlin? What about this person? What about that person? I would suggest to you, Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl more recently than Mike Tomlin has won a playoff game. Well, Acho, what about Sean McVay? I won't even argue Sean McVay. Put Sean McVay ahead of Doug Peterson. But Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl with a third-round pick in Nick Foles. He lost to starting quarterback, lost to starting running back Darren Sproles, lost to starting left tackle, future Hall of Famer Jason Peters, lost to starting middle linebacker in Jordan Hicks. Then Doug Peterson left the Eagles, went to the Jags. And after Trevor Lawrence was in the midst of utter turmoil and chaos, they were 3-14, instantly takes them to the playoffs, not just to the playoffs, beats Justin Herbert, who everybody wanted to herald as one of the greatest quarterbacks, came back from down 28-0. So when I think about the top issues with the list, it's not having Doug Peterson as one of the top coaches in football.
Help me if I'm wrong. Did Doug Peterson get fired during the season?
James, there was a disagreement.
No.
It was not fired for bad coaching performance. It was fired because there was turmoil. But
they weren't winning. They were losing.
They had a down year because of quarterback Carson Wentz, but there was turmoil.
But they had a losing year.
I love Doug Peterson, but what happened last year?
Said 4.
They started 8-3. They finished 9-8.
And who the coach? You start 8-3 and you win one more game.
What's your issue, sir? What's your biggest issue with the rankings?
You putting him at 4. Stop talking about my guy. You putting him at 4 is my biggest issue. But no. Now, I don't know what it is about these Eagles today. But they are disrespecting Jalen Hurts and they are disrespecting Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, that's fair.
Come on, man. You mean to tell me that this dude is at 15 and you got Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell and all these dudes in front of him? This man is 34-17 with a Super Bowl appearance. Dan Campbell 31-31 and 1 with no Super Bowl appearance. This is crazy, man. Nick Sirianni, all he's done since he's came to Philadelphia is win.
That's true.
This is absolutely crazy. And then my next one is Mike McCarthy. That's ridiculous,
Before
too.
you move,
My goodness.
Hold on, James, hold on, because I want to spend some time here if we can. Before he moves, Dave, Sirianni, would you suggest, though, that he has overachieved given how talented that roster that Howie Roseman has given him is. Like, when you think about all that he has, and I think Sirianni has had the second best roster in football for the last 2 years.